Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Zia Wool Studio Buzz podcast, episode 45. This is a podcast about knitting, spinning, yarn, all kinds of woolly stuff. And my name is Doug, and I am coming to you from Albuquerque in the beautiful desert of New Mexico. I want to start with a big thank you to everybody who came to my studio tour open house last weekend. It was so much fun. I just always love meeting the people who knit with my yarn. And it was very interesting because I have to say that I used to get more guests who were shopping for Christmas presents. Or not shopping. It doesn't matter, who were just looking what people are doing in their homes. But more and more over the years, people do know that they can get a nice selection of my yarns, which are Zia Wool's yarns. And so I get a lot of knitters, and that's just really fun. I had one of the really fun guests was a lady who had to shop for her daughter who lives in Texas. And that was so funny because I talked to her on the phone and we just laughed so much because she was, what? Why? You're calling me? What? And then in the end, I wouldn't have needed to talk to her because she left it up to her mom and to me to pick the colors for her, and it was just ended up being so much fun because I knew she was a mosaic. That's something that she's into, mosaic knitting. So we just threw together some skeins. That would look great with that, and it was really fun. That was fun, yeah. And so thank you for that. And of course, also I got a lot of encouragement from all kinds of friends all over the country, the people who could not come but sent their well wishes, or after I put up my little thank you video, who sent me compliments on how beautiful everything looked. And thank you for that. That was the studio tour, and I did want to. How do I start? It's a funny one because I feel like I don't have really a lot to show this time. But then you may have seen that I already recorded the German episode, and gosh, I can talk a lot about nothing, seriously. So I may say there's not much to talk about, but in the end, there is, after all. But so I'm trying to figure out, looking down at what's in front of me and trying to figure out where to start. But I think the best thing to start with is the sweater that I'm wearing, which is just so boom, right in your face. And it is my Ashes by Isabel Kramer. I made this, I believe, 2 years ago out of Zia Wool's Cozy in one of my favorite colorways, which is True Love, because it combines pink and orange, and that's where the name comes from, because I totally love pink, the combination of pink and orange. And it's in my cozy base. Did I say that? It's a DK weight yarn, really soft and comfortable. However, I'm telling you, it got cold in New Mexico, and we had our first snow 2 days ago. Very wet, big white blobs fell heavily down, but we had everything covered in white. But in the house, it's just still warm. And today, it's sunny again. And you can tell immediately the house is warm with the sun. I mean, the sun has so much power. So up go the sleeves, but the sweater is loose, so I'm fine with it. Still, I hope my window is cracked also. So that's what I'm wearing, and then I want to continue with what I have finished since I last talked to you 2 weeks ago. And it is indeed the last item that I wanted to make for the studio tour, which got never finished in time. I think I may have knitted on these on the day of the tour whenever I had a little bit of a break. And it's the last pair of fingerless mitts. Again, I used my Duke City mitts pattern. It's a free pattern on Ravelry, and I wrote it specifically to accommodate different weights of yarn, very suitable for hand spun where you don't really know what you have. So you just need a little bit of a sample or a guess on your gauge, and then you can pick from the pattern, you can pick your needle size and the stitches to cast on and length of thumb stitches, amount of stitches for the thumb, and that kind of stuff. Of course, otherwise they're very, very flexible. Excuse me. I just usually go in stockinette and then cast off with knit stitches, but of course you could do anything. If you're worried about your edge rolling down, you could do ribbing as well as here at the cast on edge. These, I believe, I made with 5.5 millimeter needles from Handspun, and you may see the way I try to make these from Handspun. I always try to match ever so slightly the thumb fabric with the hand portion of the mitts with the variegated. Sometimes I even wind off some yarn to get something that's a little more matching, because like what's a good example here, it's not 100% matchy, but at least I don't have a bright pink thumb here right next to the green. And I wanted to show you the way I keep my notes for these, because in case I make more for next year's studio tour, I wanted a quick reference other than my pattern for what I made this year. And that's why I brought my current knitting journal, because I changed them quite a bit. I've had thinner ones. This one is a thick one, which you saw as I got it. And it is a book that was turned into a notebook with added pages. And the cool thing is that the book is about knitting and crocheting animals, and sewing too. And it's so fun because it's probably from the 80s, no, the 70s, I would guess, the book itself. And it's from the library in my mother's hometown, which I absolutely love. And it still has the original cards. So let's see where it's it's kind of, oh, that is so cool. November 80. And then 1981, which is actually the year that I graduated from high school. Is that crazy or what? Those are the first stamps in the year where people borrowed the book. So cool. So, but I get sidetracked. I wanted to show you what I did for the for the fingerless mitts. So the way I do it, and I did that last year too, I tape over the edge of the page and I punch in little holes and I put in a little sample of the yarn I used and a super short notes about the needle size, the stitch count that I used, and the thumbs and the amount of thumb stitches and the rows that I did, because like sometimes I've had enough yarn to make a second pair, but if I waited, maybe I had a little bit less, few grams less for the second pair. And so I would see, okay, I used 15 rounds for the hand section, so I'm just going to do the next pair with 13 rows for the hand section. And so I have this quick reference. Also, I keep, sorry about the paper crackling noise. I keep track, of course, this way also about the amount that I have made. In this case, this year, I have made a total of 15. Can't remember how many I showed you last time. I definitely made more than the ones that you saw, but I thought it's fine if I show you just the last pair. Yeah, that's my knitting journal, and the next one is going to be next journal when this one is full is going to be a German, an A5 size small notebook, which goes in my traveler's journal. I mean, it's as an insert with a bunch of other stuff, of course. But I will show you when I start using that once this one is full. It's going to take me a little bit longer. What else have I finished? Yes, let's get talking about the sock madness that's been going on. I talked last time about the new Christmas knit along that I started. There is an active chatter thread in the Ravelry group. Christmas Socks 2019 hashtag Zia Wools Christmas Sock Cal 2019. If you want to participate, please join the group and put your project into the thread. I actually decided that I'm going to have a little giveaway within the chatter thread, but of course when the knit along ends on December 31st, I also want to do a giveaway and draw a winner for a skein of yarn. I haven't decided which yarn yet, but we'll see how that goes. So of course I am in on my own knit along, and I have finished my candy canes and icicles socks. Believe it or not, I even wove in my ends. I know it's hard to believe. I love these. These have kind of a funny story. It's not, I don't know if that's interesting to you or not, but I thought about making these for myself because they are in a new base, which I wanted to try and see how it wears. It's my Trailblazer sock yarn. It's a BFL nylon, superwash BFL nylon blend. And so I thought I probably should make these for myself. Then in between, I thought, well, my daughter would really, really love these. So, well, whatever. I'm going to make these a little bit shorter for her. That's quite a bit. I mean, 10 rounds less per sock for her. So I thought, great. But then in between, I had this other idea of using handmade socks as gifts. So these, I think, will go in the gift box. And the reason is that I decided differently on what socks she should get after I pulled out all my Christmas yarns. Because when I finished these, I thought, oh, I should take a look at what I have, because I remembered I had some fun Christmas yarn still in my, I call it my hand-dyed best bin, which is all the hand-dyed yarns that are not dyed by me. So I got into that box. I pull out the skein of yarn that I was thinking of, but I also found another one, another Christmas yarn, which I want to show you. I will show you both. So I remembered I had this one, which is so fun. It's a Mint Rain yarns. No, she's called Mint Rain hand-dyed yarns. mintrainyarns.com. I don't know if she still dyes. I think so. So I saw this. My friend, local friend of mine, she made socks with these, and I thought, oh, that's so cool. So I wanted that. I think she knitted them up, or she just showed me the yarn. I couldn't swear to it. I have to ask her. So I found this one. It's called, can you guess? Buddy the Elf. It's so incredibly obvious. Very cool. But then I found a yarn that I forgot I had. And it's this beauty by Marigold Jen. It's called Marianne Bright. And I got it in 2016, which means 3 years ago. Man, it sure looks like it might be a self-striping. I'm not sure. Jenny, I don't know if you're watching, but if you are, do let me know. Look at this. I love the colors. Yeah, love it. So already I had 2 choices for my next pair. But then, of course, there's yarns that I dyed myself. And there's this, which comes with a story. This was my Christmas colorway of 2017. It's called Kiss Me Under the Mistletoe. But the thing is, if you know that colorway, you're going to say, what? That looks very different. And the reason is that it was originally altogether lighter. And what happened was I ended up casting on with a different colorway, which I'm going to show you in a moment. And then I saw this one and I thought, this is so light. The other one is so light. I want this to be darker. And since it's just for me, I thought I'm just going to do that. And so I kept the original kind of dye scheme, or whatever you want to call it, where there's a lot of dark green and some red and this icy turquoise-ish blue. So very curious to see how this one will knit up once I get to it. Who knows when? Because then there is another one, and that's actually the one where I thought this has to be. If I get to make socks for Fiona, let me show you this again. I wound it up. Looks so nice. Twisted it, I mean. And the other one is this one. And this is the one where I thought this has to be socks for Fiona. And the reason is it's called The Little Girl's Gingerbread House. And I don't think I ever talked about this. I can't remember, but I came up with this colorway and with its name thinking of so many years ago when our kids went to a party, a kids' party in the neighborhood, a kids' Christmas party in the neighborhood, where all the children would decorate gingerbread houses. So I don't know if you know my daughter, she loves everything sweet. So of course, this is how her gingerbread house looked like, covered in everything available that you could put on your gingerbread house. So yep, hers for sure. So I have one that's balled up. I have 3 that are still in skeins. I have 1 pair finished. I have 2 pairs in the making. Because, like I said, after finishing this pair, I got to cast on another pair. And I want to show you where these guys are in. It's a Christmas theme basket. It had a different lining, or maybe it came without a lining. And I made this to fit so the yarn doesn't get caught if you use it as a knitting basket, or when you use it as a knitting basket, I should say. And here is the yarn that I am so thrilled about that I cast on with after the candy cane ones were done. I love this so much. I want a sweater of this because, oh, check it out. Oh my gosh. I hope this shows okay with my weird lighting. The 2 sides look ever so slightly different. Oh, I love it so much. And this is the advantage of the dyer. I can say, hey, I do want to make this, but I don't, which essentially means I don't have to buy it. It's not that I see it and I know I want to make a sweater, I'm going to buy it. I will dye this for a sweater when I'm ready to start the sweater. In the meantime, I forced myself to continue on the other pair of socks, which is my oldest sock project currently. That's pretty cool, right? Yeah, that's good because it's not that old. But this guy lives. People, did I even tell you what this is? No, I did not. It is my Taos sock yarn. It is a superwash Corriedale nylon blend, which is slightly fuzzy. I hope you can see that. And the colorway is the Beekeeper's Christmas colorway. Now I have to sneeze. Sorry, can't help it. Sneezing, no way around it. So, Taos, the Beekeeper's Christmas. First time that I came up with a Beekeeper Christmas colorway, and it's just great when it just works out perfectly. Yes. So, in this bag, on the back, this is some vintage fabric. I cannot even remember where I found it, but it's so cute and Christmassy. And my other socks are in this Christmas bag, which I think I made 2 or 3 years ago. It's a square. I think that was the first time that I tried this shape. And wow. Sometimes I'm surprised about myself. Because 2 weeks ago, this was just past the gusset here. All this was missing, and now I almost have a pair of socks. So I forced myself to knit on this in between so I could reward myself with a different project and with switching around. And this is a yarn which I love, and that's not the reason why I abandoned it, even though I'm a little surprised that the second sock is lighter. So as a dyer, I know it can happen. Not sure why, because I don't know her dye technique, but I still love the yarn. And I got it in Las Vegas. Actually, it says in October 2018. It's called North Pole. It's a very cool base because it's so fuzzy. I really love it. It reminds me of my Corriedale. It's a 75-25 superwash merino nylon, 450 yards for 100 grams. And I was talking to my mom earlier today, and I counted my rounds. I don't measure, I really actually count. And after this guy, I know I only need 10 more rounds, and then I can start the toe. And as you can see, I'm almost there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 4 more rounds. Yes. And don't think you're done with the socks. For one, I meant to tell you that with these short socks, I still have 57 grams left. I forgot to mention that. But also, I wanted to tell you about another sock project that I have planned, but hold on just 1 second. When you talk continuously, you do need to drink once in a while. So I wanted to, it's sometimes when there's a lot of different stuff, it's kind of hard to figure out. It's not hard really, but it's kind of like you wonder how you group things together. And in this case, there's something that I want to do, but still, since it's sock related, I wanted to show it now when I'm talking about the socks. And it's a pair of socks that is already finished. However, I need to work on this pair, and the reason being that there is a giant hole in the bottom of the foot. My husband mentioned just the other day that he would really like more socks, and you need to know that he wears his socks only around the house at home. So he has one more pair like this, and maybe you have guessed, these are double knit socks. So I held 2 strands of sock weight yarn together to get a nice cozy sock. And what I did was I picked one skein, and actually this was a gift from a dear friend of mine. That's what I used. And then I worked with all kinds of leftovers that I put in here. I need to show you that the second sock, it does show a little bit of wear on the bottom, but really it looks still great in the same spot. Whereas this one, I'm almost thinking that maybe his sock got caught. We have like 2 or 3 spots on our wood floors where there's this ever so slight crack in the wood, and where you can get your sock caught if you're in socks. And I wonder if that's what happened. And he caught the yarn, and then when I washed it, it opened up. I think that may have been the reason. We will see what happens, because what I will do, what happens with the second pair then, or when I have fixed these, because what I will do, whole sock looks great. So I will cut off the tip. I will get 2 live stitches. I will then knit a new front and toe section, again holding this yarn together with other commercial yarn leftovers. Yeah, that should be just a matter of an hour or so, and I do have notes on a card, which is an index card, and it reminds me that I did want to show you this a lot of times when I knit socks, because it tends to take me a long time, have you noticed, to finish socks. So I put my notes on a little index card and I stick them into the bag so I have them ready when I need them. And it just says how many rounds for the ribbing, how many rounds for the leg, the heel flap, and then for the foot before I start the toe. So the toe I usually do in the same manner every time, so I don't take notes for the toe. But I know I do have a card somewhere for these double knit cards, socks, and I did want to laminate the card. And also maybe this one where I wrote down for my daughter for the candy cane socks, how I made those when I still thought those were for her, but which they're not now. But so maybe I make a new card and write it all new and write Fiona's sock recipe or something. Then I'll laminate it. I'm gonna punch a hole in the corner and hang them here somewhere so I actually find it when I need it. It's an interesting subject, just real brief in between. I talked about this on the German version of this podcast because it's something that came up in German knitting podcasts where people talk about how big their stash is. Does my stash really need to be this big, or is it not even manageable and not just, is it really necessary to be that big? Why does my stash have to be that big? Does it still bring me joy to buy more yarn if I already have a lot? How many UFOs do I have? How many works in progress? Do I even still remember what I have? So this also rolls into the amount of books, magazines, accessories, tools that you have. And it made me think about that, and I thought, I am okay with what I have. I still occasionally, I don't want to crucify myself just because I occasionally buy something else. But then again, sometimes there comes stuff like this where I invent new ways of keeping them that work for myself, and which would be something that I use all the time. So I would connect the laminating cards maybe with one of those office rings and really just hang them there. So if I start a pair of socks where I know, okay, this is the size that I'm going to make, I'm just going to grab the card and stick it in my project bag. And yeah, that's one of those things. And in regards to stash, I always say I don't buy necessarily always for projects. I do it sometimes. I sometimes have plans when I go to a store or to a wool festival, and I'm thinking, okay, I will look for yarn for this project. But also, I don't want to stop buying from other indie dyers. I certainly don't want to stop buying from my yarn store, my local yarn store, because I'm glad they're there. And yeah, so I won't stop shopping, but I want to be mindful about it. That I do. And I have also to say about this that I think I came to a point last year where I thought, well, I really don't need to cast on all the time, because I really do forget after a while what I've started. And then it's kind of like when I get back to that project, it's like starting a fresh cast on. It's not really fun to figure out where were you in the pattern and that kind of thing. And that's why I have reduced the amount of works in progress. I have reduced the amount of UFOs, but I will go with you through my basket of doom, I used to call it, but I have to say it's not that bad anymore. Sometimes my planning and my timing is not that great, which is the case right now because I have abandoned a few projects for the sake of Christmas presents and Christmas knitting. And that is where I would like to show you one more project which I have indeed started in the meantime. And I am talking about the sweater for my son, which I would like to get done for Christmas for him. And that would be with this yarn, which is my cozy Zia Wool's Cozy in a one-of-a-kind colorway. I have dyed up 3 colors. Actually, I've dyed up 4 colors. And I want to put them in the sweater in blocks, in 3 fat blocks, and I'm probably going to put in a very dark stripe in between the colors, just so I'm not short, just so I can't run out of yarn. So that would be this guy. I'm not going to take them out because you will get to see these more in the next episodes. More of these. yeah, sorry. And I am making this up. As you may remember, if you've been watching for a while, last year I made a sweater, actually this year in spring, I made a sweater for my son. The story was that he said, hey, I really thought you'd make me a sweater for Christmas. And I felt so bad. So then I ended up making him a sweater. He likes blues, and it was a light and dark blue striped sweater. Now, that was a thicker yarn. I think I made the sweater with 6 or 6.5 millimeter needles. So I still have the notes for that. And I used those notes kind of like to sketch out the pattern and the stitch count for this yarn, which I did make a gauge swatch. It was very small and it is already frogged. But these are my very crazy and very chaotic notes. That's how I start, and this is a little bit better written up. And let me show you where I am. Obviously, this is the front. You can see there's a neck opening, a little bit lower in the front, and my mother saw this and she said, oh, I think this is going to be a little bit too wide, but I don't think so. Sometimes it's kind of hard to see in reference to a person. I think it's going to be fine. Look at that. And he does not like it too tight. I feel like this is probably going to be perfect. It's going to stretch out a little bit more with the weight of the sweater, and I really love how the yarn knits up. That looks like the variation. Absolutely beautiful. It's really a lot of fun, and I love the feel of the yarn. So I'm done with my short rows for the front neckline, and now it's just in the round, and I have not determined how many stitches I'm going to need for the body and the sleeves, so how long I'm going to go. I'm just going to keep going, and then I'm going to maybe borrow his sweater, or I'm trying to keep this a secret, so we'll see how that goes. I would love it to be a secret for him for Christmas. So finally going on the sweater project. And then, as you may remember, I am thinking about making a sweater also for my daughter. I'm waiting for Mom to bring the yarn. I should have plenty of time if it really works out. I mean, hers will be made with really thick needles, and so I'm just not sure whether I'm really going to use the yarn that Mom brings that was in Germany, or how I'm going to do that one. We'll see. I'll keep you posted. I almost forgot to mention, oh, and here we are actually at the point where I will show you all the projects that are kind of started and halfway abandoned that I just mentioned, and I don't want to not tell you about anything. And one of the things that have not grown a single bit is the pair of Duke City mitts that I had also started before the studio tour. These guys, yes, didn't knit one single round, and the reason is that the studio tour is over, and I don't really know anybody who would love to have pink mittens, pink fingerless mitts, so not really any priority. And I don't think my nieces would really like pink. They're too big for that. Yeah, no. That goes to the, how shall I name it? The whip UFO. No, just a UFO. Whatever, to that pile. That needs to get done. I will finish those, I promise. But then I had started something else. I mentioned that I dyed a lot of bulky yarn, and if you have watched the video clip that my daughter made for me as a thank you for all the people who visited the studio tour, you have in the video, you see those skeins of this bulky yarn hanging. They looked so pretty in all those beautiful colors. I picked this one to try making a hat. This is, I named it Big and Bulky, and it's an incredibly soft yarn that has, one skein has 8 ounces and 210 yards. So I really feel like I have to knit with this to figure out, is this, how much do I have left over for a hat? Do I need a full skein to make a hat? Because I think that's the thing to do with these guys, with this yarn. And I started a hat with 6mm needles, and then, oh, it's kind of funny. I run and I think about something that I started knitting when it's my design and it's something that I play with, like it is in this case. I get these super great ideas on the run, and then I come home and I feel like I gotta do this, and I'm missing a few hours in the day. Let's just put it that way. So this one, light bulb moment when I ran, but the reality just put the first cast on hold. But the new idea still needs to get going. And one of the reasons also, I shouldn't say that it's only a time reason, because I am actually really missing a needle. I said in the German podcast yesterday, I said, oh, the smallest, I have only a 6.5mm small circular needles, but not a 6mm needle. I went through my needle book yesterday and I saw I do have a 6mm needles. So if any of you Germans watch the English one, I was not saying the truth. But one thing was true. I do not have a 7mm small circular needle, as well as, I do not have 7mm DPNs that are usable for a hat, and I will show you why. This is what I have, 7mm, and this is how long you need them for a hat, and that's a good inch longer. That just barely works. This, too short. I had started a hat and I had wound up the blue, this gorgeous blue, so incredibly soft, because I went to, I have that up there, a jar with my pom-poms, and I found this guy and I thought this is going to be perfect with the blue. So I started a hat, but then I realized I'm missing the 7mm needle. It got put on hold, and then I had a better design idea for the hat. Initially, I just wanted to do a 2x2 ribbing, but now stay tuned for the better idea. And I was also a little bit worried if my stitch count was going to work out. But that was the advantage, was really that I could try it out with when I pulled out the needles. So this is gonna just wait for the needles, because I went to my yarn store. I brought them a big delivery for, I mean, they wholesale buy my yarns, so they're stocked. If you're local or if you're visiting Albuquerque, they have a lot of yarns for me now. But they didn't have the needles that I needed. So they're waiting for a shipment where they say it takes very long, so they will call me, and as soon as I have the needles I need, I will start the hat. It was interesting because I thought, wow, this yarn, it's so plump. I thought I probably can knit with 8mm needles or even 9mm needles. No, 6mm for the ribbing, and I think I'm going to be able to go to 7 later, but no bigger. Yeah. Wonderful, wonderful, nice, soft yarn. And that was this. And now let's get to the basket of doom, as I have previously called it, but I'm not calling it that anymore because it really doesn't hold that many embarrassing projects anymore. It does have some, you'll see, but it could be worse. It was worse at one point. But I will start showing you something that lives in this first. It's a 70s. Is that a knitting thing originally? You see the t-shirt. It contains one shirt, not cut, and two t-shirts cut, and one bath mat started. Showed you this before. Didn't have enough yarn, bought shirts, made the yarn. Not quite done with all my t-shirt yarn because this also is the other t-shirt that needs to be cut. But then I still didn't want to start working on it again because I want to, I'm still not going to have enough t-shirt yarn to finish the bath mat. So I want to shop first for more t-shirts, and I'm most likely going to do that when Mom's here. She gets here in about 2 weeks, so then we're going to be on the go and we're going to go thrifting, and then once I have a bit more shirts, then I'm going to like that better to work on it, because then I can, you know, determine how I combine the colors. For example, here I'm already a little bit bummed that I started with a patterned t-shirt, but I mean, whatever. It is what it is. Maybe I find a tie-dye cheap t-shirt that I can use in the middle, so it's not only this one speckled yarn. If you think about making something like this, I need to mention one thing that I had to learn the hard way. I bought 2 t-shirts which I ended up not using because I can't use them. What they have is a seam on the side. When you cut the shirt with a seam, the yarn rolls in a way that shows the seam, and I don't like that. And there's plenty of shirts, I just didn't know that. There's plenty of shirts that don't have a seam and wear it makes a much better bath mat. Check it out. This is how this thing works. You put this through here and then you close it, and you could even take it to your knitting group like this. I love it. Okay, what's next? My Beautiful Hat by Alyssa Latucci. Alyssa, I am not done. It is where it was last week. Beautiful, still missing chart number 1, and it will be finished, but this one is for me, so no time pressure on this. Gifts are first. And I talked about this last time. Such a beautiful pattern. La Luz hat by my neighbor and fellow New Mexican, Alyssa Latucci. The basket. Next is my embarrassing Amory sweater in Holst yarn in this beautiful bag. And I will not open this because I haven't worked on it. Then, I love that I came up with this idea to put the yarn on the zipper, so now I don't have to open the bag if it's been a while that I worked on the project. I know this holds my Meristem lace shawl. Not worked a stitch on it. Again, for myself, it will have to wait until the gifts are done. Here we come to an embarrassing project. I told you there's a few that are embarrassingly old, and this is one. I cannot even, I don't even think I should call this a work in progress. It's really a UFO because it will be a shawl. I got the pattern in Germany. It's a Lana Grossa pattern that uses 3 of their yarns. Silk mohair blend, a merino lace, variegated color changing, and this, where I forgot what it's called, like what the name of this guy is. And I made one for my mother in mainly purple. Then I made one for myself in turquoise and lime green, and then I wanted one for myself in pink and orange, which I love, as I told you. But because I had the yarn, I just thought, I'm just gonna cast on, and that's where it was. I got as far into this until I had knitted up a little bit with all 3 different yarns, and that's when I closed the bag and never touched the project again. Hi, that's one of the embarrassing ones. Here is a favorite one of mine that I've talked about a lot, which I will happily come back to in a little while yet again when the gifts are done. And this is my hap, my Hansel hap that I talked about so much in Beautiful Handspun. Here is another bag, and this is something which is, this is really embarrassing. It's a children's motif, which already hints to what's in this. Some finished, some unfinished. I mean yarn, just the yarn. but we are talking children's and baby socks. These were supposed to go to Russia. There's a group that collects for children in a Russian orphanage, and some of these are made by me, some are made by my mother. I just saw that I missed the deadline. I am such a loser when it comes to stuff like that. I feel like I'm all over the place, which is completely fine, but then I abandon something that has a deadline. So, well, what I'm saying, or what I want to say, is that, excuse me, these will go, all of these will go to a good cause. However, I do not know which good cause yet. I'm thinking I'm going to do it locally, and so that's where you come into play. If you are local and you have an idea of where socks for children, warm socks, are needed. I have not Googled this yet. I just found the bag literally yesterday when I recorded the German podcast. So I have not looked up any charity stuff here in Albuquerque. I just got an email about food collection, but clothing. So, but if you know of anything where socks for children are needed, I would love for you to get in touch with me. ziawolz@comcast.net. Shoot me an email. I would love to know about that. So these find a new home where they are needed, and all of these are machine washable, so that will not be an issue. Then I have you all know I have several blankets that I am actively or not so actively working on. Currently, I am only working on my song blanket, which is, I wrote that up, how I'm making that. It's available for free on Ravelry. However, I haven't brought it because I'm just about to finish another row of squares, and that when I finish the square, the last one in this row, I will bring it and show you where I am. But then also there is a crochet blanket, which is in the hallway closet. Yes, that's a true UFO. What can I say? That's one of the embarrassing one. This one, okay, I will figure out what is going to happen, because I actually, while I am still working on my very first sock memory blanket, my mother has made 3 of those and is currently making a 4th one for my brother and his family in Germany. My blanket is not very big. This is my blanket, and I have no idea what I'm gonna do. I've traded mini skeins with Instagram and other friends, and I just love all the yarns that are in this, and yeah, still need to weave in some of the ends. And I just don't know what I'm going to do, because the song blanket is the warmer one, and I really, really like that as a snuggle up with blanket in the living room. But then I'm not going to need this one. What am I going to do with this one then? I could make a pillow out of it, but now it's already too big for a pillow. You know what I mean? Well, Or maybe I'll just continue, and when there's a baby in close proximity, I'm going to give this for a baby, as a baby gift. There's a lot of my yarns in there, stuff that I have dyed, and yeah, that is this. Lives in one of my favorite bags, the fat squirrel bag. Oh, I love this design so much. Check it out. This stuff is warm, even when it's just a headband. So this is good for all the people who live somewhere where it gets really, really cold. Well, it's not really, really cold yet here, but it's definitely not really, really cold in my house. Last but not least, one of my favorite blankets. I was like, I hadn't opened this bag in a long time. Look at it. It's made with one of my favorite fabrics from Doris. So I opened the bag yesterday and I'm like, wow, it's so beautiful. It's my corner to corner hand dyed yarn happy blanket. Hope I'm not losing the crochet hook now. Where is it even? I'm gonna wheel myself back a little bit. I just love this so much. This is really essentially all hand dyed yarns, and I decided I'm only gonna use the bright colors, hand dyed colors. Yep, I just need to get going. This usually it just takes a break for a while, and then I pick it back up and I work a lot on it, and I cannot see my crochet hook. That can be a problem, but then again, oh, I see it up there. It was a blue hat. I knew it had a blue handle, so that'll be fine. And now we've gone through everything. That's it. My song blanket and this. All of these. Yes. Not too bad. That's all the knitting and crochet in this house. But I have done a little bit of sewing last week, and I have made some project bags, and I wanted to show some of these to you. Most of them I have not finished, but this I wanted to show you because I love it, and this is probably going to be for my mom because we used to live in Maryland, and we all, the whole family, loved the cardinals, and this has all the cardinals on here. I think she's really gonna love that. And she, when we go places, she just brings her knitting in a knitting bag, and so she can use this one. Then I have made this guy. I started making them a different format. Usually I make them like this with the zipper on the long side and the handle here. But I changed that because this kind of reminds me of Santa's bag, you know, where you stuff it from the top. and it's kind of longer on the bottom. Made 2 of these. And the last one that I finished is this guy. Can you see the sparkles? Yes, you can. So cute. I think I'm going to take this one. I have only 2 Christmas bags, and I think I'm going to take this one. And this one also has a cardinal. I'll show you right here, because I also love cardinals. There may be a sports team that's called the Cardinals. No relation at all, because I wouldn't even know. Oh my gosh, I'm gonna make people mad if I say I don't even know what the Cardinals are. If you're a Cardinal fan, please don't be offended. Whatever they play, I'm sure they're a great sports team, okay? Nothing personal. But soccer, yes. St. Pauli, Hamburg team, Eintracht Frankfurt, Bayern München, Munich. Okay, enough of this. The last thing, and this is really the last thing I wanted to show you, is some new items which are just so much fun. This had to come to this house. It is the very last line of magazine. I'm sad, but then again, it's good. It's a beautiful magazine, and they had it at my yarn store. I had to get it. Here it is. No plans yet. If you get a chance, get yours. And then as I was at the yarn store, I met a local friend, my local friend Jeannie, and we're partners in crime with spinning a lot. So Jeannie passed the word along that a local spinner is destashing a lot of her fabulous fibers. So we all shopped that destash, which is actually part of the reason why I'm in the house today, because my garage studio where I usually record is jammed with all the things that I picked up from that destash, and also a little bit of the stuff that was just moved out there real quick before the studio tour. And so that's why I went in here, because it's just nicer. And also yesterday I needed the light when I recorded the German one. Today it's fine, but yeah, that's what it was. But back to Jeannie. Jeannie, I met her at the yarn store, at my local yarn store, the yarn store at Nob Hill. And she's like, oh, I look at the great sock blank I got. I'm like, what? You got a sock blank? I saw no sock blank. Sock blanks. And she's like, she pulled it out. She shows me. And I said, oh my gosh, that's so beautiful. And she's like, there you go. It's yours. Merry Christmas. Lucky me, right? I was wearing it for part of the day as a scarf, because it's so pretty. So thank you again, Jeannie. You made my day. Another amazing item was also a gift. I shared my house with 2 friends, Laura and Sarah. Laura is a rug hooker, and she makes the most beautiful things with, she hooks most of the time with cotton, with t-shirts, by the way. Very cool. Sarah was here for the first time with her local pottery, and last year already I bought some mugs from her because I just love her work. Very bold colors, very southwestern, and it's Southwest Sunflower pottery. And because I let her come here as a vendor and I was hosting, she made me a yarn bowl. Look at this. Sorry, I sneezed again. She made me a yarn bowl. It's amazing. what can I say? This is absolutely stunning, and it's heavy, which it has to be, and it's just so pretty, and I love the colors and all. So I know she will make more. She is on Instagram as Southwest Sunflower Pottery. Sunflower Southwest? No, Southwest Sunflower Pottery. So I'm sure if you want one, you can get in touch with her through Instagram. Or, I mean, I can pass on. If you're not on Instagram, send me an email, ziawolves@comcast.net, and I will pass that on to her if you want one of these. I never asked her if she ships, but I'm pretty confident that she does. Yeah, and her work is just amazing. Yeah, she has, I know she had two different designs, but I really liked the one the best that she made for me first. So it was just perfect. And we have come to the end, believe it or not, 1 hour and 20 minutes into this podcast. I hope you are well. I hope you enjoyed this. Thank you so much for watching. Enjoy all your Christmas knitting and enjoy Thanksgiving. I am certainly thankful for my life. Goodness gracious, let's put it this way. And I hope you are I hope you're going to have a wonderful, wonderful Thanksgiving and a wonderful start into the Christmas season. And I hope I'll see you again in 2 weeks. And until then, happy knitting.